All right. Good afternoon. Good evening to all of you that have tuned in with us. Again, God be praised for all that He has done. Again, welcome to our third segment of dealing with COVID. And again, all of the sessions have been great. If you tuned in the first time, we had, again, a series entitled Vaccine versus Virus. We had the Chief Executive Officer of Great Lakes Bay Health Centers, Dr. Brenda Coughlin, and then Dr. Craig Weeks. They are both specialists in their area. Had them come in. I tell you, it was a powerful session. Tons of you asked questions. Again, it was a great piece where they came in and pretty much whittled away at a lot of the general theories that are out there. You know about them, obviously, because you continue to deal with them. My co-partner that day was Dr. Dennis Laffoon. We had a great testimony from Bishop Larry Camel. It was a great session. And then after Bishop Camel spoke, again, Dr. Laffoon and I, we partnered to ask questions of Dr. Coughlin and Dr. Weeks. I have to tell you, it was so informative, and I'm so grateful that we had that piece. And by the way, again, my name is Dr. Craig Tatum. I serve as the pastor for New Life Baptist Ministries. I serve as the president for the Saginaw African American Pastors. So let me thank New Life for giving us this forum, if you will, to have this session on today. Listen, let me tell you, a week ago today, we had two great panelists. Last week, we dealt with survivors of COVID. And I just have to tell you, if that session didn't move people, I mean, it's phenomenal to hear from Chucky Lawrence and then to hear from Brother Isaac Garcia and his wife. Chucky, it is believed to have been the first individual in the Saginaw County that caught the Delta variant. And Brother Isaac and his wife, Isaac was a victim of COVID-19 back in November of last year. And I just have to tell you, just listening to their testimonies, from the minute they were aware that they had symptoms until now, it was certainly moving. I tell you, if you miss either one, you really need to go back and watch both. Bring some of your family, friends, and loved ones. Have them sit down and listen to the testimonies in and of themselves, their struggles. Both of them were near death. As a matter of fact, Brother Garcia, I think he coded not just once but twice. When he was in hospital, there were several other members of his family that were there, and he lost them as he was fighting for his life. Well, today, we said that the focus today would be really on trying to get the word out to the Hispanic community. And so I'm honored again just to be a part of the committee today. You're going to hear, again, some very gripping testimony, comments, thoughts. And we've got, again, a very, I'm going to say my co-partner. She's going to provide the leadership today, but she's more than willing to provide and share. So I'm going to be here. I may ask questions in and out, but we certainly want the Hispanic community to know that the Saginaw African American Pastors and the Hispanic Leadership Institute, we are partnering together. Our sole purpose is real simple. We know in the community that the Hispanic community and the Saginaw or the African American community are really struggling, trying to get the word out that we need to do our very best to achieve community immunity. And so anything that you can do to help us, we want you to do that. I'm going to talk about some dates coming up here later in the program. I just want us to get in and get some work done. Again, a very capable friend and advocate for the Saginaw community is going to come forward now. Let me introduce her. She's going to introduce the rest of our guests on today. And I just want you to know, I did say to our guests, hey, if they feel like singing on today, feel like doing so, and both of them have respectfully declined. That doesn't mean that they can't sing. They just said, hey, you know, we're past this time. So let me just take a time, just a little bit of humor. So let me take a moment now to introduce Miss Monica Reyes. She is a board member for Saginaw Bay Great Lakes Health Centers. And she also, you're going to have to help me with this. She also serves as the lead for the Hispanic Institute for Saginaw Great Lakes Health Centers. So Monica, I might have chewed that up a little bit, but my purpose is to just bring you on board. So I'm going to take a minute now. Let's welcome Monica Reyes. And let me say to all of you that are tuned in that if you have questions, please put them in the chat. We are going to bring those questions up at some point in time. Just put them in the chat. I'm hoping that Monica's leadership and talking to our guest today will already answer those questions. So Monica, again, welcome. Let me say this as well. We have Jill Armentrout here with us. She's sitting there in the rafters in case, in the wings in case we all get stuck. I don't think we will. I think we got a very capable panelist, and Monica's going to do a great job just as well. So Monica, again, welcome. We'd like you again just to introduce yourself, and then you can have our guests introduce themselves. And then we're ready, Monica, for you again to lead us into this discussion on today. So again, welcome, Ms. Reyes. We're glad to have you. All right, so let's hang on, Monica, and make sure that we've got voice for you. All right, let's try that now, Monica, and see. No, not yet. Okay, try it now, Monica.
Okay.
There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for having me, and I'm honored to be serving on the committee with you and all the very, very caring people in our community to get our community vaccinated. And just a little bit about myself. I am with the Great Lakes Bay Health Centers Board, and I'm on the Great Lakes Bay Hispanic Leadership Institute as a director. But I'm also with the Hispanic Latino Commission of Michigan, and so I get to work with people all over the state and get a lot of information. So one of the things I wanted to do today is to bring some data to you. But before that, I'd like to introduce Michelle Reynolds. Michelle is a parent who made the decision to get her children vaccinated, and I will have her introduce herself in a few minutes, but I'm not sure, is Naomi on also?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Naomi is an individual in our community who actually got COVID and recovered. She had some health complications that she continues to deal with, but we asked her to share her story today, and we will also have her tell us a little bit about herself. But I wanted to bring some numbers to you first. Michigan statewide, we currently have 1.2 million cases of COVID today, and we have already had 21,349 deaths, which is very sad. And it's sad because we need to get our people vaccinated so we can bring those numbers down. In Saginaw County, there's been 26,926 cases today, and there's been 665 deaths. So vaccinated statewide, we have about 63% of Michiganders vaccinated 12 and older. About 58% have received 2 doses. So the first 63% was the 1 doses. But in Saginaw County, we have 58% of our residents 12 and older who have received their first dose, and 54% have received their second doses. Data that I have to bring to you is that in Saginaw County, residents 12 and older who have completed their vaccinations with second doses by race, we have 47% of the white race, 34% of the black race, and 29% of Hispanic residents in Saginaw County have been vaccinated. So In Michigan, the numbers are comparable, but a little bit higher. Statewide, 40%, 46% of white have been vaccinated, 35% of blacks have been vaccinated, and 46% of Hispanics have been vaccinated. So, due to the underreporting of race and ethnicity, especially for the Latino community, the rates may vary higher or lower. I mean higher. We don't know because in the beginning, it was more important to get that vaccination out there than it was thinking all of this through. And, everybody was new at this. So we didn't know how important it was to keep this data by race. But, health leaders are working with the churches and with community organizations like ours to build that vaccine confidence. And we encourage our audience to also work with the county on this task. We have STARS in the community who are offering free transportation to vaccine sites. Great Lakes Bay Health is currently doing vaccination and testing Monday through Fridays from 8 to 1 at the Dave Gamis Center. And we also want to talk about vaccinations for children. And that brings me to talking to Miss Michelle Reynolds. And Michelle, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to the decision of getting your children vaccinated?
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. Again, my name is Michelle Reynolds, and I am born and raised in Saginaw. And when the pandemic started last year, I was working in medical education for a local university. And, we all remember the shock and just array of emotions that we went through. But anyhow, I've been working in higher education for about 20 years and had been working with these specific folks for about 5.5 years at that time, and definitely trust and respect and admire the physicians that I was working with. And so as we went through the pandemic and trying to figure everything out, and just the amount of fear that we have for our families, I really started to think about myself and my kids. My parents, I have older parents who help out a lot with my kids. So when the time came for myself to be vaccinated, it was kind of a no-brainer. And my kids started to actually ask, before I even said anything to them, they started to ask me when they would be able to get the vaccine as well. So we just, watched the news. I spoke to the physicians that I worked with. And honestly, it wasn't really a conversation that we had to have in our house. They wanted to do it. My oldest child is already vaccinated. My son is still waiting. He's just right at that cutoff. So he is eagerly awaiting his vaccine. And in the meantime, he's making sure that he wears his mask too. So, but thankfully, it wasn't a fight in our house. They wanted to be safe. They wanted our family members to be safe. So on May 13th, 2021, members of the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices voted unanimously to recommend the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccination for children 12 to 15 years of age. And so when that came out, Michelle, what were you hearing at your workplace? Because I know you work with a lot of physicians and train people who are becoming doctors. What was the talk? A lot of the physicians were talking about getting their own kids vaccinated. So again, it was just the amount of respect and trust that I have for them. They're not going to put their own child's life in danger. And they trusted it for all of us as well. So I just didn't have to question it. I did, ask, are the side effects going to be similar and things like that? And they were very open to have conversations with me. But again, if they're going to vaccinate their own children and not hesitate about it, then I'm not fearful for mine.
Right. Thank you, Michelle. Let's go to Naomi. Naomi, your experience with COVID was a little different because you started off with some complications through your health anyway. So can you tell us a little bit about your backstory and how you came to get COVID?
Sure. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, I'd like to take a quick minute and thank Reverend Tatum and New Life Ministries for having me here, and Monica as well. Well, highlighting on this education part of it for our minority community to know what's going on in regards to the vaccine. My story of going back of being diagnosed with COVID-19 and surviving it had really made an impact on my life. I was doing everything possible to not catch COVID-19 given my health history. I have an autoimmune disease. I have a record full of just things going on. And when COVID-19 broke out, I was extremely, I would say, fearful because I knew if I would have caught it, things were not going to be good for me. And I practiced everything we could, including my children, my mother. We all stayed home. We didn't do nothing. We just pretty much practiced, being safe. But somehow, some way, it still snuck into our home. And that was the hardest part because I just didn't, like I said before, I was fearful and I already knew that if I did get sick, things were not going to be good. And that's exactly the route that it took. So at that point, catching COVID-19 and, at first I do understand how we feel like as a Hispanic community, or I should say the minority community, we are a little bit more proud and we think we can handle things on our own. And that's kind of the route that I took, and until I was literally told, you need to call 911. You need to go.
You have children too, right? So this
I
not
do.
only affected you, but also your children.
Yes, and that's the part that was also very fearful at the time because I have teenagers, and I had two of them, including a college student. So I have 3 children, and all of them are coming from different schools, and while they were still going in between the whole, that COVID-19, but at the time they were wearing masks and so forth, believe it or not, I was fearful of them bringing something home to my mother and because she's elderly and so forth. But again, it sneaks in somehow, some way. And I chose to, after as well, my children, I did give them the option. I asked them if they wanted to be vaccinated, and they were on board. And I think it was because of everything that they saw. They saw in our world and then at home. So they are vaccinated as well.
Yeah, and right now, only 30% of the eligible children under 16 are vaccinated, and that's very concerning. What is your message to them, Naomi, about getting their children vaccinated?
Absolutely. Like Michelle had just stated earlier, it's a no-brainer. Like I said, because they saw everything. I am very thankful that they did not contract the COVID-19. I don't know how they got away with it being in home with us. Of course, we had to, contain ourselves into, other rooms and so forth. But they, like I said, they didn't get sick. But it wasn't a risk I was willing to take because I was like, okay, after what I went through, going to the hospital and telling me, okay, it was horrible. I got sick during the second wave of COVID-19, and just the amount of people, when you go in, they're rushing you in, and there's no rooms. You're just lined up one after another on gurneys, and they're putting tags on you and basically prioritizing who can go and who's going to make it and who's not. And I think I've had a history or my past with cancer, leukemia. That was very scary. But this whole COVID-19 scared the living mess out of me because of what I saw.
What was going on with you? What were your symptoms that brought you to say something's wrong, something's not right? I'm sick already, but something else is going on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It starts out as it starts out like allergies, but you get headaches. The worst part is the shortness of breath, not being able to breathe. That is definitely the part, but you definitely get fevers, chills, flu-like symptoms. That's exactly what it's like. For some, it's mild. For others, it could be very, very devastating. So
Yeah.
that's how I realized, okay, things are not looking good, and I need to call my doctor. And they were like, "You got to go."
But you also knew of individuals that were hospitalized there with COVID that couldn't have their families with them, and they were literally dying and could not have their family with them. And, that must have been devastating to you to witness some of that in the hospital.
It was. It most certainly was. Being able to hear people crying, not wanting to be ventilated, wanting to talk to their families, just fear. The fear all the way around inside of there. Like, that's why I was saying that COVID-19 really did scare me, because I saw a lot. And then I too was also approached, constantly they were putting me on different machines, to help me breathe and so forth. And then when they come over and they're telling you, we're going to need to ventilate, we're going to need to intubate you. And that right there was scary, because the first thing I thought was, I need to call my family. I want to talk to them before anything happens, because I'm not sure I'm going to come out of this. So, and that was frightful.
Yeah, and I think just from talking to you before and hearing this today, it's not a joke. This is real and really happening to individuals. We have from Great Lakes Bay Health Centers, Mary Rivera, who is actually an RN at Great Lakes Bay Health. And Mary, thank you for coming today and helping us get the word out. I wanted to ask a question. Is it true that COVID doesn't affect kids as much? And if so, why do they need a vaccine?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here. Although most children with COVID-19 have mild or no symptoms, some children can get severely ill and require hospitalization. And there's no way to really tell which kids are going to get severely ill or which children are going to be mildly ill. So that's why it's really important for your child to be vaccinated, because it could be your child who could become severely ill. And you don't want your child to go through anything that, Naomi went through.
Yeah. So can kids, who are under 17, can they go without their parents and get vaccinated without their parents' permission?
No, teens 12 through 17 years of age need parental consent for any vaccine, actually.
So one of the questions that somebody asked me is if it's safe for my child to get a COVID-19 vaccine if they want to have children someday. And so I think they're worried about their fertility of their children in the future and how COVID-19 is going to alter some way their capability. Is that true?
According to the experts at the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, if you're planning to try to get pregnant, you can still get the COVID-19 vaccine. There is no evidence that suggests that fertility problems are a side effect at all. So in the short or long term, any COVID-19 vaccines are available, are perfectly fine for that.
And we had another question. My child has a pre-existing condition, and we know that Naomi did too. She had different health problems. Should they go ahead and get the COVID-19 vaccine even if they have an existing condition?
They absolutely should. People with pre-existing conditions should absolutely get the COVID-19 vaccine, because it's going to help them more so to fight off the COVID-19 disease.
Yeah. And so if a child does get symptoms of the COVID-19 vaccine, Naomi told us a little bit about her symptoms and how she felt. Are they different for children than they are for adults?
No, they're pretty much the same.
Pretty much the same. And so they will experience the trouble breathing, the cold symptoms and
Yep.
fevers, and so,
Runny
you know,
nose,
if
cough.
they do get that, should they get checked right away, or how do they know if it's a regular cold or the COVID?
They should get checked if they have one of the symptoms or many symptoms. It's important for them to get checked just to be sure, because it could start out like with mild symptoms, like the allergy symptoms, especially like what's going on around now with the changing of the seasons and whatnot. You might think it's just a simple allergy when you in fact might have COVID.
Yeah. And so I know my daughter-in-law asked a question. She wanted to know, you know, her kids are getting their regular vaccinations, the ones they normally have to get for school anyways. Now, should they be getting the COVID vaccine in addition to those routine vaccinations, or should they wait?
Routine well child visit and the COVID-19 vaccines, they can get them all together.
Okay.
There's no
And they won't affect each other.
contraindications. Yep, there's no contraindications for getting any of the vaccines separately. There was at one point, but now it's perfectly fine to get them all at once.
So what do you think? Should they get the COVID shot or should they get the flu shot? What should they do?
They should get them both.
Okay.
Should get them all.
Adults and children?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So I wanted to go back to Michelle for a minute. And Michelle, I know that they're getting ready to, I know they're working hard to get the vaccine approved for ages 5 to 12. 5 to 12 years old, and we're hoping that possibly in November that vaccination, you know, will be eligible for those that age. What is your message to the parents who are still not sure and they're still worried about getting their kid vaccinated, especially at that young age?
You know, honestly, I hear this at my kids' school. I hear it in my own family. Folks are hesitant, and I understand that. And on the other side of it, though, I am more hesitant to take the chance that one of my children are going to end up in the hospital as sick as Naomi was. I mean, I remember watching that when she would share information with us, and my heart just broke for her and her family and everyone else that I've seen, share their stories. And that's not something I want for my children. It's not something I want for my family members.
Right.
It's just, I don't like to take those kinds of chances. I know that it's easy for us to say, oh, I'm really healthy, or I haven't gotten it yet. That doesn't mean you're not going to. It doesn't mean that something can't happen. If you get it and it's mild symptoms, fine, but that's not the case for everybody.
Yeah. Naomi, I know you were worried about your children, and I know we talked about it a little bit. Only 30% of those eligible children are actually vaccinated. And, you know, the parents are making the decisions based on what they believe and how they feel about, the safety of the vaccination for their children. What message do you have for them? With your experience with COVID and your own children, what message do you have for those parents that are still worried?
Well, my message is the value of life, and the value of life of those that you love. Because whether or not you get it or you're a carrier, you have to think about those that you are around. My children, in fact, my high schooler has been quarantined 3 times already because she's been in contact or exposed to someone who's had COVID-19. My middle schooler has happened at once. Luckily, the college student, he's like, I'm going remote. But other than that, these are the things that we have to do in order to say, hey, we have to make our community aware, especially our minority community, and let them know that it is okay. And it's also okay to be scared, be fearful. But I always encourage you to do what I did, and when it came to my children and myself, is that if you have questions, call your doctor, call the health department, call someone that you know that you can reach out to get that information, and they are more than willing to help you. They are more than willing to give you that information and give you the advice that you may need. No question's a dumb question. You know, anything that's there, that's what they're there for.
Yeah, thank you. Mary, a lot of people think that this COVID vaccine is something new to the community, but it's really not, because children have been required to get vaccinations all along, you know, and this is nothing new. And I want to talk a little bit about the flu vaccine. Who needs the flu vaccine, Mary?
Everyone 6 months of age and older needs the flu vaccine, as long as there aren't any contraindications.
Yeah, and so how often should they get this vaccine? Is it once a year, or how often?
The flu vaccine is recommended annually.
Yeah, yeah. And so does the child need 2 doses of the flu vaccine, or is it just one? I know the 2021-22 flu season is upon us, and so how many vaccine doses would my child need?
Well, if your child has not received 2 doses in the past, then they would need 2 doses as a first timer, so to speak, that are 4 weeks apart. So that would be like a newborn, or if they've never received a flu vaccine in the past, they would need a 2-dose series. And then thereafter, they would need 1 dose annually.
Okay. Is there anyone that shouldn't get the flu vaccine?
If you're allergic to any component that's in the flu vaccine, then you shouldn't get the flu vaccine.
Okay. So when should I be vaccinated? You know, how long do I wait?
You should probably get the flu vaccine during the month of October, as soon as it becomes available. Usually it becomes available in August, and it's recommended to get the flu vaccine before the end of October. And then for the kids that need the 2-dose series, you want to get them started as soon as possible, because they're going to need to have that second dose before the end of October. And you have to remember that immunity takes up to 2 weeks to become fully effective.
Okay. And so probably about 5 years ago is when I first started getting the flu vaccine myself, because I truly believed that if I got the flu shot, I was going to get the flu, because they were injecting me with something that had flu in it. Can you get the flu from the flu vaccine?
You cannot get the flu from the flu vaccine because it is not a live virus.
Okay. Okay. And do I really need it every year? If I've gotten it every year for the last 5 years, do I really need it every year?
Yes, you do need the flu vaccine every year, because every year they have a new strain out, so they make the flu vaccine according to the higher strains that are circulating.
So are any of the flu vaccines recommended over the others? Because I know with the COVID-19 vaccine, there was Pfizer and Moderna. Do we have varieties for the flu vaccine?
There are different varieties, so to speak, of the flu vaccine. They're all just as effective as the other, so it doesn't really matter which one you get, as long as you get your flu vaccine.
Okay. And what about pregnant women? Should they get the flu vaccination also?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
The pregnant women, should they also get the flu vaccination? Pregnant
Yes,
women?
absolutely. Pregnant women should get the flu vaccine.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you, Mary. Michelle, I don't know if you have any last words that you'd like to share with us before we turn it back over to Pastor Tatum.
I think that, well, first of all, thank you, and thank you, Pastor, and for having us. I think that the only thing that I would say at this point is, like Naomi said, it's natural to be fearful. It's natural to be hesitant, to not understand. I mean, this past year and a half has just been a roller coaster for all of us, and there's so many new things that we're seeing, and we're still coming down from this. This isn't It's not over. We're not out of this.
Yeah.
And I would just encourage folks to, like Naima said, talk to your doctor, talk to someone you trust. I was fortunate enough going into this that I was already working with a group of amazing physicians. And so I didn't have to go through some of that confusion that other people did. I had a resource right there at work every day where I could get information. And I know it's hard to look online, so talk to folks that you trust, talk to your physician. But I mean, definitely do something.
Yeah.
Don't trust that because it hasn't happened yet that it won't.
Right. Naomi, right now, they're reporting that about 29% of Latinos in Saginaw County have been vaccinated. And, that worries me a lot. And I just wanted to know if you have a message for those that are still waiting and waiting to see, if anything better is out there, or they just don't want to be vaccinated. What is your message?
Well, my message would be like I said, is to really think about it. If you yourself do not want to be vaccinated, I would, like I said, is to think about those you are around. And when I say you're around, you're talking your family, your children, your parents, grandparents, even your coworkers, because we have to keep in mind that these individuals also do not want to get sick. And that's the thing, it's not a choice. This virus is no choice. You really, either you get it and you get really sick, or, when we have the resource right now to take advantage to at least get ourselves vaccinated and be able to protect ourselves and everyone else. So I definitely encourage our Hispanic community, the minority community, to just get out there and, like I said, questions. If you have any questions, they even have a panel of pharmacists. They are the ones that make the decisions, and they are the ones that have all of the knowledge out there to be able to say what's going on with this vaccine.
Yeah, and thank you both, and Mary Rivera, thank you all for being with me today to talk about the vaccine and, to get the message out that, we do need to be vaccinated, and we need to push for this community immunity, because until we get vaccinated, this is not going to end. It's just going to keep going and keep going and keep going. And, I want to put a little plug in. Michelle and Naomi. Michelle is a graduate and now a teacher instructor with our Great Lakes Bay Hispanic Leadership Institute. And Naomi is in the current class of the Great Lakes Bay Hispanic Leadership Institute. And, even when she was in COVID and she was struggling and stuff, she would let me know, I'm going to catch up. I'm going to get back to it. And so you're a fighter, Naomi. We're proud of you.
Thank you.
Pastor Tatum, thank you for having us. Did you have any questions, any other questions that you wanted
I'm glad
to
you
add?
asked that, Monica. I was sitting here thinking, and one of the things that occurred to me, because we're talking about children now, we know that the shots are out there now, that young people obviously can get them. I guess I would ask either, Naomi or Michelle, based on the fact that your children have made that decision, can you share maybe some of their conversation that they've had with some of their peers about the shots themselves? I was just curious as they were talking, and it sounded like their kids kind of made the decision, but I'm wondering, did they come home and share some of their conversation they had with other peers, and what was that conversation like from either or?
With my kids, they're younger, a little bit younger than Naomi's. I've got an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old. And to be honest, what I was told about was they were asked, did it hurt? Because of course, any kid is a huge fan of getting shots and getting pinched, I'm sure. So they were asked if it hurt, and they were asked about the symptoms, whether or not they had symptoms. And, my daughter had no symptoms after her vaccine. So beyond that, I don't think that her friends really asked her anything else.
All right, what about you, Naomi?
Okay, yes, mine's is a little different because, again, I'm dealing with high schooler and, well, they're teenagers flat on out. So these kids have questions. Believe it or not, if you sit there and you think that they don't, they do. They have questions and they talk amongst themselves as peers. They do get a lot of negative feedback, positive feedback, but a lot of the negative where it's like, they're trying to figure out, well, so-and-so said, it's not good to get it because my parents said so, or anything along them lines. And yet my children are, like I said, I gave them the choice. I wasn't going to force it on them, but they're old enough to be able to tell you, I don't want to get sick, or I've seen what's going on in this world, and this is what I want to do. So yes, like I said, giving them the option, talk to your children. Get their opinion because their opinion matters. Even though you may be on the fence, I would talk to them because what they have to say is so important because they are our future generation, and we need to be able to help them get there with that. So other than that, I can just say, as far as, like I said, the kids and everything, talk to them, get their opinion, and help them get to that point where they want to be.
Excellent. So Mary, minorities or people of color have come in, young people have come in. You may not know that number, but has it been a lot, very few? What does it look like right now?
Well, as far as the adults, we do administer the Moderna at my site. The Pfizer vaccine is what's indicated for the younger age group. I don't have that vaccine at my site, so as far as the kids, I can't really say. At my site for the adults, I can say that we do administer some vaccine to minority patients. They do request the vaccine, so I can say that we do have some uptake of it there, but I don't see all of it because I'm at the David R. Gomez Health Center, and the COVID testing and vaccine site is also in our parking lot. So they can go through the drive-through there, and it's possible they're getting it through there, and I just don't know it. So I don't see all of it.
Mary, what about your family? I know, outside of the healthcare center, what kind of questions are your family asking?
My family is pretty good about getting the vaccine. They have been really receptive to it. They actually came to me and asked me about, hey, where can I go? When can I get it? And our company did host a lot of vaccine events. So I gave them the information about the vaccine events, and my family members attended those probably several months ago. So,
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, at the end of the day, and I want, again, to remind everyone listening right now, I want to remind you, number one, listen to the statements that have been made. Naomi talked about her personal path and the impact that it had on her life and the life of her family. And one of the things struck me when Naomi said that it's a wake-up call when they're saying, okay, we're going to have to incubate, and knowing that there's a possibility that when it happens, that's really letting you know that, hey, this is really at a very life-threatening point in her life. And I think that's critical for people to understand. It can happen to anybody. And so, again, the purpose of this session today was, again, to really reach out to let people of color, and the real emphasis on African Americans and Hispanics, but it's for anybody. The bottom line is we're saying to you, if we're going to achieve community immunity, everyone has to see their getting a shot as critical to the life of this community. So saying that, I want to take a minute right now, if I can, Monica, and put up 1 or 2 flyers just so that people understand that over the next 2 weeks, there are going to be at least 4 opportunities for you to get the vaccination. And I don't know if we've got any questions. If we do, we'll entertain those. On October the 23rd in Hoyt Park. There you'll see the flyer up on the screen right now between the hours of 12 p.m. and 4 p.m. right there next to the Children's Zoo. You can get your vaccination. There's going to be a food truck there. Everything is connected to vaccination. So I want you to know that you can't just drive through and say, hey, I came through to get a shot or to get a T-shirt or to get a gift card. There will be gift cards there. There will be giving out T-shirts there. I think there is a major prize, and I'm going to ask Jill if she can remind me kind of what that major prize is. Are you aware, Jill, what that prize? You probably don't know, do you? Okay, we're still debating right now on what that major prize is going to be. I do know that if you get the shot, you will, those that get the shot, if you come with your family, I know they are giving out tickets so that you can go right into Zoo Boo. I know that there are coloring books that are going to be given. There's personal protection equipment that will be given. So there are some things going. Hey, you need to go. It'll be a great opportunity for you to get your family vaccinated. I think that's so critical for people to understand. And then 7 days later, there's going to be three sites where you can get the vaccination. One is Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church in Burt, Michigan. You can see that flyer. It's on the screen. The hours, and you have to help me with this, I think are between 2 and 4 or 2 and 5. Is that correct? Production crew, is it 2 to 4?
4.
Okay, 2 to 5. All Nations Church. Help me with that address. I think it's 601. Is that right? South 20? 608. Okay, my site is kind of decent. All right. Again, and then it is Mount Calvary, which is 3610 Russell Street on the south side of the city of Saginaw. Again, the hours are the same. Anybody can go in and get that vaccination shot. Again, the same things are there. They're going to be giving away personal protection equipment, T-shirts. I know they're giving away gift cards, Myers, Walmart, and I know there is a grand prize that is supposed to be raffled off if you go in and get the vaccination. There are coloring books. This is for anyone, and I want you to be aware that it's for anyone again, that wants to get the shot. We tried to link this with, again, trunk or treat or trick or treat, whichever you want to say. I think all the churches are going to be doing something along that line. So you can't afford to miss this. It is really open to anyone. You can just walk in and get the shots. And need I remind you, and Jill can help me with this, you can pretty much go into any of the Great Lakes Bay Health Center sites and get the shot almost daily. Is that correct? Okay, the site at 501 Lapeer. Weekdays 8 to 1. Okay, site in Bay City on Monitor Road. That's 8 to 1 just as well. And I want to remind you that the two available vaccinations are Moderna. Okay, at the events is going to be Moderna and Pfizer. And help me, Jill, I think with Moderna, that is 18 and above. And then with Pfizer, it is 12 and above. Now, let me ask Jill another question. Jill, so will the booster shot be at those sites, or we're just focusing on vaccination? Gotcha. So our focus really is going to be on getting the vaccination. And so I will ask our production crew, I see you got up on one screen where it's talking about preach Pastor Tatum, but I'm really not preaching. That must have been from Sunday. But I will. I will ask the question. Are there any questions for anyone that has tuned in? Okay, so here's a question, Monica, and I'll let you. Can you see that question, Monica?
No, I can't see
Okay,
it.
so the question is teens that play sports think that it takes them from performing their best. What effect does this take away from them getting the shot? And Mary looked like she's getting ready to answer that question. So go ahead, Mary, if you will. Go ahead, take a stab at that question.
I wouldn't think that it would take away from performing their best. I would just recommend that when they get their vaccine, they should probably not get it the day before a game.
Yeah. I would think they would be more worried about getting sick and being taken out of the game because they are sick. I think that's even worse. So I think vaccination is probably the best choice.
Yes.
Yeah, if I can piggyback off of that, my daughter's a competitive dancer and has been for a long time. And, you know, just like Mary said, we were strategic when we got her vaccine, and just made sure that, you know, we didn't do it surrounding a performance that she had or anything like that. But on the other side of it, there's been a couple times during her volleyball season this year that we've had to wonder, are you going to have a game today because someone might have been exposed, or are there, you know, and not everyone on the other team was vaccinated. So for her, it hasn't affected her at all, except when she has to wonder whether or not she can have practice or a game because someone is sick or exposed or something like that.
Excellent. Do we have any other questions? I got one more I want to ask Naomi. It's just a quick question. So Naomi, okay. So Naomi, so one more question for you. So have you fully recovered, or are you still in recovery at this point?
I am still in recovery. With that being, I still have an oxygen tank and or I forget what they call it. I just call it the big box. I do have to do that. I also was now on a CPAP machine to help sleep with, or not just to help sleep, but help breathing in the night. These are things that it was just one more thing I had to add to the many of things that I had going on in my life. Do I not like it? No, I'm not crazy about it, but I am thankful I am here to be able to, you know, and remain here, because that's always my ambition is to be here and to be with my children, see them grow up. But other than that, yes, when it comes to feeling, you know, not my best, absolutely. I can catch a cold right now, and I would, instead of being sick for 2 days, I am down for about a good 2 weeks.
You know, I think what it boils down to, and I think all we're trying to say, again, Monica, and I know you can co-sign that. I'll let you have concluding remarks here in just a minute. I think all we're trying to say, you know, as the Saginaw African American Pastors and Hispanic Leadership Institute, I think all we're trying to say, and let me say this as well, we partner with Great Lakes Bay Health Center, so all of this is a partnership. And all we're really trying to do at the end of the day is convey the message. Our goal is community immunity. Our goal is to ensure that everyone in the community is doing all that we can to ensure that everyone is healthy. I agree with some of the things that have been said earlier by Michelle and by Naomi, and that was, I want to always make sure that at the end of the day when I go home, I'm not possibly taking something home that could take the life of my family, my friends, or my loved ones. Life is precious. And so there are some things I always encourage. Do it for your family. Do it for your friends. You've seen enough to understand the detriment of it. We've had over almost 700,000 individuals in this country. This has become the worst disease to ever hit the United States of America. So we're saying to you, we want you to do your best. Let's work together to achieve community immunity. So again, thank you, Mary. Thank you, Naomi. Thank you, Michelle. At this time, Monica, concluding remarks from you.
Yeah, my last message is that, this disease doesn't care what color you are. You can be red, white, black, green, purple. It doesn't care who you are. You're going to get affected the same way anybody else is. And I know I've had people explain to me the reason for their hesitancy and some of the history, that went on before now. But what I can say to you is that, this is not a game. This is very serious. And in order for our community to get better and your friends and your family and your parents and your children to be safe, you got to get that vaccine. And to those parents that are still waiting, it's almost like a gamble. If you wait, the longer you wait, the better chances your child has of getting this disease. And we really know that you want to keep them safe. So our advice to you is get them vaccinated as soon as they're eligible. Talk to your doctor, talk to your friends, and get it done. Community immunity is the way it's going to work.
Again, great words, great discussion today. Again, it's been very rewarding. It's good to hear at the end of the day. I hope that you become inspired. I hope you become motivated. Again, all it takes is to hear these stories, and don't think that it cannot happen to you. I guarantee there are dozens of people across the country that said, oh, it'll never happen to me. I'm not out there. I like what Naomi said, that despite all of the precautions, this is the critical piece, despite all the precautions, somehow or another, it creeped into their lives. Thank God that she's still alive. She's on the mend. I'm saying to you, don't think it cannot happen, because it can. So again, on behalf of the Saginaw African American Pastors, New Life Baptist Ministries, Great Lakes Health Care Centers, Great Lakes Health Care Centers. Am I saying that right? Gio, help me. That's a tongue twister. The Hispanic Leadership Institute, again, Great Lakes Bay Health Centers. Again, to all of you, thank you for tuning in. Thank you again to all of our panelists, Michelle, Mary, and Naomi. Thank all of you that asked questions. Thank those of you that tuned in. I hope that you will go back, replay this so that others can, again, have a sit down and listen to the testimonies. Last week, Chucky Lawrence, Isaac Garcia, and his wife, go back and listen. And hopefully those testimonies today and last week may be the tipping point for some people. But take advantage of it. It's our prayer that you've been blessed on today. Until we meet again, God bless you. That is our prayer.